So the shortest verse in the Bible is John 11 verse 35. It says Jesus wept. And by itself it's actually quite intriguing, but especially when you think about the broader context of what's actually happening here. Why did Jesus weep? Because when you actually look at the context of what actually happened here in John 11, it's actually really powerful. In the beginning of the narrative, Jesus' friend Lazarus is actually sick. And they basically call him and say, you know what, Jesus, come and actually heal him. But what ultimately happens is Jesus decides to wait a couple of days before heading out, and ultimately Lazarus dies. Now, 4 days later, Jesus arrives in Bethany, and by then it's basically too late, so to speak, because Lazarus is dead. He's been in the grave 4 days. Lazarus' two sisters, Mary and Martha, who were also friends of Jesus, are basically weeping and crying and saying, Jesus, why couldn't you come sooner? If you come sooner, everything would have been all right. Well, the funny thing about this scenario is Jesus had already said to his disciples before he arrived there, he said, Lazarus is sleeping. And as they went on their journey, he basically plainly said to them, Lazarus is dead. And he not only leaves it there, he says something really powerful and really vital. He says, and for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, because he's ultimately going to showcase and glorify God even higher. So when he gets to the place, everyone's distraught, and he basically says to Lazarus' sister, don't worry, he's going to rise again. And he's basically talking about, yes, I'm going to do this right here, right now. They think he's talking about some point in the future. And a really powerful and key thing here is, this is at least one reason, one key insight why I think Jesus wept. And this is because Jesus has been telling them that, look, he was going to die, okay? And he was going to rise again, okay, on the third day. And the fundamental fact here is, Jesus was saying that Lazarus was going to come back. And they were weeping and were sad and ultimately didn't believe him. And that's ultimately why Jesus wept. And then what did Jesus do after? Even though it was 4 days later, Jesus raised him from the dead. And the powerful thing about this, and one of the reasons why I think Jesus did this, was because if they were struggling to believe that Jesus could raise Lazarus from the dead, how are they going to have the faith to believe that Jesus was going to raise from the dead a couple of days later after being crucified? This was one of the reasons why I believe Jesus decided to raise Lazarus from the dead 4 days after being in the grave, because in a couple of days he was going to get killed and crucified ultimately and raised again from the dead 3 days after. So this is the shortest verse in the Bible, John 11:35. And one thing you should identify about the scriptures are, verses were not in the original text. So I know all of this kind of trivia, what's the shortest verse in the Bible, etc., is fun to do. But one thing you need to understand is, when this was originally written, there were no chapters, there were no verses. That was something that was later added, only really a few hundred years ago, to be honest. And I say that to say, yes, we might have fun with all of these different kind of things, what's the shortest verse in the Bible, but know and understand that originally there were no verses and chapters in the original text. So if you want to go completely by the book, there is no shortest verse in the Bible, so to speak. If you liked what we did here, seriously consider subscribing below the video, and I'm going to recommend you watch this video right here. It's a great video for you to watch after watching this video. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks and take care.